So yesterday I asked you about what was your gospel. And so today that made me think about how Jesus used to talk to the multitudes in parables. What is your story? So when you are thinking about finding your voice, defining your core message, what is your story? That's where you start. And stories are powerful, as is evidenced in the fact that that was Jesus' primary method for speaking to the crowds. And it says that he kind of covered the mysteries in the stories because it would be easier for the multitudes to understand. And in some cases, he wanted to hide the mysteries from the multitudes, but the stories were intended to help them get the message, right? So if we start with our stories, if you start with your story, the intention of the story is to first connect with people. It makes it easier for people to digest. It gets them interested. It attracts their attention. And then the other part of that is it helps you to engage, helps them to engage with you, more. It simplifies complex ideas, just as Jesus shared mysteries of the kingdom through his parables, right? So we can then take more complex ideas, make them easier to digest and understand. So that's what I do with my brain hacks, with my vision theory series. And that's what most of us do with acronyms. That's why an acronym is so useful. It's technically could kind of fall in the parable category, but they're easy to remember, and and they pack a punch. Like when you get a good story and it brings you in and grips you and captures your interest, that's something that stays with you. So we want to get in the habit of actually telling our stories. And I learned from Rochelle Shaw, my mentor, that you've got to find 4 stories. And what I realized, kind of the trick I'm playing for on my own, the hack I'm doing for my own brain, is really identifying who are the audiences for those 4 versions of the story, as Rochelle suggested. And that has been really transformative. It's made it so much easier for me to understand how to share what I have, the message that I have to deliver with the right people. And I think of it this way. If I want to tell my granddaughter, who is 13, a story about some just a particular story. But then I also want to tell that same story to my parents. Then I could go and I could tell the same story to my siblings, and I could tell that same story to my friends. But I'm not going to tell the story exactly the same way based on the audience that I'm delivering it to. So I am the same. Ultimately, the story is the same. The point of the story is the same, but I've got to break it down in different ways for different audiences. And so that's how you need to think about your own story and your own core message. The core message doesn't change. That's why you want a core message, because it's the center of every story that you tell. But the intricacies of the story, how you tell the story, the length of the story will need to change based on who it is you're talking to. If you're in business, if you're talking to a busy executive or a busy leader, that person, when you tell your story, doesn't have all the time. If you're not close to them, they don't have a lot of time. So you need to break that story down very quickly to its simplest, most essential elements. But then you can tell the same story to another person who has more time, to the secretary, right? You could do, so it's just, it's a way of thinking about your story and your message. And I like how I really felt like that was very freeing once I learned that and got that information. So now I have been writing those versions of the stories. I'll be rehearsing them so that I understand exactly what those essential elements are, and so that I can get to a point where when I share my story, no matter where I share it, that it lands. Then also, the thing that Rochelle also suggested is, or part of her the teaching around that is, as you share your story, then the feedback you get from the people that you deliver the stories to is going to help you to adjust the story. So we want to take the time to write it, but also understand that, again, writing it one time does not make it vivid. It becomes vivid as you use it, as you write it, as you edit, as you tell the story, as you get feedback, and you make adjustments. And what's beautiful is the more you understand who you are, what your vision is. So remember, we're talking about the V.I.V.I.D model: vision, identity, voice, information, and development. We're on voice, but we started with vision. So the more vivid, as your vision gets more vivid, your identity gets more established, and you are clear about who you are and what you have to offer and what you're bringing to the world, how you're presenting yourself, how you are showing up. And then you understand, you've defined what your core message is. You know the stories that you want to tell to the right people. You don't tell multiple stories to all the people. That gets them confused and makes it very difficult for them to fully understand your vision so that they can run with you, right? So again, you want to write your story. That's part of defining that process, part of defining your core message, and think about it in terms of how you would deliver it based on who you're talking to. I've been trained, from the last three decades that you want to know your elevator pitch. Well, an elevator pitch is not necessarily appropriate for everyone. Some people need a little more. Some environments, require a little bit more information, but you can start. That elevator pitch is that short version of how you introduce yourself and talk about yourself. But it's basically the introduction to your story. And then you can build on it from there. And then you can adjust the language, adjust the details based on who it is that you're talking to. I think that's cool. I love it.